Welcome to the Week 5 Los Angeles City Section Football Podcast. Connor Morissette and Alex Scar. Alex, I know this week you had a chance to check out Birmingham.
I did.
Before we get into our top 10, all the good stuff that we do once a week, I want to kind of get into some playoff projection talk here. So first thing, our top 10 is the same as the Cal Preps top 10, just different order. So we have the same 10 teams right now. And one thing that we need to remind people, obviously our top 10 is unofficial, but that Cal Preps 8, those 8 teams,
that's
1 through 8, yeah, that's going to be the open division at the end of it, and we have the same teams right now. So I think that's, we're kind of playing by the same rules, which I think is important.
Yeah, it seems like we're starting to shake out who the real contenders, and I don't want to say pretenders, but there are some teams that have sort of fallen out of this race and a couple teams that have really solidified their case. We're seeing a really strong play out of the Western League. We're going to talk about Palisades and Westchester kind of stepping in there. And then, of course, Garfield, maybe they've kind of already pushed themselves into open division conversations, locking up a spot. But, yeah, I mean, the Cal Preps ranking, that is the official ranking. So the city section, they're not even going to go in and tweak it. They're just going to say whatever the computer says, that's what we're going to do. It's just kind of an easy way to slot these teams. And for now, it looks like we're all kind of on the same page.
And remember, a Division II team, if it has an impressive enough resume and sneaks into that Cal Preps top 8, can make the open division. Right now, the top 2 from Division II are Franklin and Wilson, but they're all the way into the 20s. So I think even if Franklin runs the table and ends up beating Eagle Rock, goes 10-0, I don't think that's enough because that one Eagle Rock game will be obviously a very big victory, but they just don't have the wins that some of these other teams can compile. So I think even if Franklin runs the table, they're not going to be an open division team, which is something that people thought maybe Eagle Rock last year might have had a chance to sneak in if they went undefeated, but they didn't. So look for it all to be Division I pretty much as we expected.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, kind of regardless, like you said, regardless of what Franklin does or some of these other Division II teams, let's say Canoga Park goes out and has a fantastic finish to the season, regardless what some of these other teams do, it seems like it's going to be tough for them to crack that open division, but that doesn't matter. They're still going to get a chance to play for a city title. Regardless, we're going to see the Panthers deep in the playoffs, even if it's not an open.
Remember last year in the open division, 4 Marine League teams made it. Narbonne, of course, Carson, of course, 2 semifinalists, and then San Pedro as well as Banning. Right now, if the season ended today, only 2 Marine League teams would make it. We're seeing the Western League, as you mentioned, Alex, have kind of a better push. Garfield is a team that's in the mix, as well as Eagle Rock. I don't want to say surprise teams, but those are the reasons why these Marine League teams are out. I think the Marine League is going to finish with 3. I don't know if it's going to be San Pedro or if it's going to be Banning, but look for that league to get 3 teams. I think it's just too good to only finish the year with 2, so we're still going to see some movement as the league play starts and the non-league play kind of winds down. I think San Pedro or Banning will get an opportunity.
Yeah, I think I might have to play a little devil's advocate here and say it'll be the Western League getting that extra team because I think right now the way it's going to stand, we're going to see Carson and Narbonne. They're almost locks at this point, and then in the Western League, I think Venice is kind of lock up that spot. But the other couple of spots, maybe Garfield gets in, they lock it up. Birmingham's probably going to get in. I think San Fernando's going to get in. So there's only going to be a couple of spots up for grabs here. I think what might happen, the Western League is going to be a really tough league all the way down the stretch. You might see Westchester and Palisades pull off a couple of, maybe that's that 7 or that 8 seed in the open division, and San Pedro is the man looking out, also Banning. It's going to be interesting towards the end of this year, especially once league play gets started, because let's say San Pedro goes out and they beat Carson, and Carson's got a really great resume after the rest of the year. You're going to have to put both of those teams in. So really it's all going to come down to who wins the football games, as it always does every year. But for right now, if I had to put some money on it, I'd be thinking Western League gets in.
Still a lot of football to be played, like you mentioned, Alex, so we have a lot to get to, but just kind of some opening thoughts there. And then finally, we didn't even mention Dorsey or Crenshaw. I think, unfortunately, in terms of the open division, both of those teams are lost causes, which is too bad. We saw Crenshaw make the open division championship last year. Dorsey knocked on the door, ended up going to the D1 championship. Both of those teams, I think, will be in D1. They just haven't won a game yet.
Yeah, you were talking to City Section Commissioner John Aguirre in your podcast a couple of days ago, and he was saying the enrollment issues at Crenshaw and Dorsey have really taken their toll. They're down to 800 students apiece. That's going to be really tough to field some of these big, competitive, strong football teams that those inner city schools are used to seeing. Rebuilding years for Crenshaw and Dorsey. I don't think this is a death knell. I think the program can still come back, but we've seen them really kind of go through some trials here this year. JV teams for Crenshaw haven't really played a whole lot, so it's going to be interesting these next couple of years. Can they convince students to come back? Can they rebuild that football program? But for the 2018 purpose, yeah, I think we're going to see them in Division I, and who knows? It's still going to be playoffs. There's still some really good players on each of those teams, so it's going to be interesting, but for now, rebuilding years.
Let's get into our top 10. Starting things off, it's Palisades. They suffered a really tough defeat on the road against Brentwood, 14-13. That was a battle of two undefeated teams. Pally stuck right with them, but ended up losing that game by 1 point. So they're off next week, and then they play Fairfax. That's a must-win. You got to beat Fairfax this year to have a chance at the Open Division. I think Palisades understands that. Last year, Fairfax beat Pally. I think we'll see the script flipped, when that game comes up in a couple weeks. But they're off this week. They'll get a chance to regroup after dropping that game to Brentwood.
Yeah, the Saturday night lights, man, it was a little bit tough. It looked like I thought Palisades was going to hold on. They were going to beat Brentwood in this one. The defense was solid as it's been through the first 5 games. Dolphins look like they have one of the best defenses here in the city section. Cy Riley led the team with 12 tackles. Noah Kadushim also had a couple of sacks. So the defense is looking really good for Pally. I mean, they got 100 yards out of Max Police in the running game. So there are a couple of things to look forward to, but it's going to come down to offense because we've talked a ton about Westchester and Venice, two of the most explosive passing and running attacks in the entire city. So the defense from Pally, yeah, it's going to be good, but if you get into a shootout, that could be very, very dangerous. But for now, Pally, they're still in our top 10. They're still one of our best teams. Excited to see what they got the rest of the year.
Will Janae caught a touchdown as well. You mentioned offensive question marks a little bit. I think the X factor for them will be quarterback Daniel Hayes. We'll see how he performs down the stretch. At number 9, another Western League team. It's Westchester. They're 5-0. They beat View Park on the road 58-36. One question I had after this game, we know the offense can score, as you mentioned, but defensively allowing 36 to View Park, I don't think that's necessarily a good look for the Comets.
No, they also allowed a pile of points to, I think, Division 10 team St. Bernard. So they're allowing points, but the plus side here is they're 5-0 because they're putting up almost 60 points right now on some of these opponents. Jillian Carter, we've talked about him. I've given him game balls. I've given him a lot of love. He was 11 of 23, so not the most efficient day, but you know who picked up the slack? Nathaniel Adams, 22 carries, 223 yards, and 2 touchdowns there for the Comets. So if it's not one guy, it's another guy. They're picking each other up. That offense is really, really moving the football. The exciting thing, they get Uni this week, and frankly, I think they're going to kind of push through and beat University High School. But when they play Palisades, October 5th, that's the make-or-break game for both of these teams. Westchester goes and beats Palisades. That's going to kind of put Pally to rest. They're going to have to play in Division I. I think Open Division hopes are dashed. If they lose, same thing for them. They're going back down to D1. But that's going to be the game. If they can win, if they're still undefeated when they're playing Palisades and they beat that game, Cal Preps might have them right in the middle of that 8, so I'm really excited to see Westchester's got.
2 other quick thoughts. Westchester bye week this week, and then University.
Right, yeah.
And just quick shout-out to Kennedy Jones, a defensive player over there at Westchester. 10 tackles, 2 for loss. So we mentioned the defense needs some work, but Kennedy Jones is playing really well for that unit. At number 8, Reseda. The Regents are 5-0 after beating Canoga Park, pretty much as we expected. That was a 40-13 win. Big game for them next. At San Fernando.
Boy.
Ezekiel Savage, their quarterback, he'll be ready to go. Chance for them to really show that, hey, we belong in the Open Division, but a big loss for them. Dronell Rhodes against Canoga Park got a targeting penalty. He's suspended for this game against San Fernando. Would have been playing receiver for them, moving over from quarterback. But over there at Reseda, if you can play on offense, you're probably going to play on defense as well. They just look at the best athletes, and they throw them out there. So that's a big loss for the Regents. But San Fernando might have some injury scares as well, so we'll get to that too.
Yeah, once we pick that game, I think we got a lot. Both of us have a lot to say. But on Reseda, I was filming some top recruits there earlier this week. I was talking to defensive end Alonzo Hall, talked to Zeke Savage, talked to Mario Martinez. These guys believe they are the most explosive offense in the Valley right now. They truly believe that they go out, they're going to put points on anybody. It doesn't matter what defense you've got. They're going to go out and run their offense. Zeke Savage calls it the greatest show on grass. So they're excited, man. They want to get out there. They want to score some points. I mean, the kid's excited. He hasn't played in 5 weeks. Here he is. This is his first shot playing San Fernando. They're one of the best teams in the city. We've glowed about them all offseason and here early in the season. So, boy, I can't wait to see what Reseda's got.
At number 7, we have Eagle Rock. They play South Pasadena this upcoming week after being off last week. 4-0 as well for them. Like we've said all along, Alex, it's kind of the same old story, same old song and dance with Eagle Rock. Go undefeated, you're in the Open Division. Drop one, they're going to be question marks.
Yeah, they get South Pasadena this week, so hopefully that's kind of a tune-up game. I expect them to win that one. But the one looming, end of the season, Franklin, August 19th. That's when you play Alfred Bobadilla. Basically the 2 best quarterbacks in that area of the city, maybe the 2 best quarterbacks in Los Angeles right now, at least they're playing like it. Alfred Bobadilla at Franklin and then Nathan Corrales at Eagle Rock. That's going to be the game essentially deciding whether or not Eagle Rock gets into Open. I really think they do go undefeated from this point on. And Franklin, if they want to play spoiler, maybe they're at an undefeated point to that point in the season. if they want to play spoiler, kind of ruin the season for Eagle Rock, hey, maybe they play each other in the Division I playoffs. But as we've kind of been saying, like you mentioned, all season long, if they win, they're in. And from this point on, I think we're going to stick with that.
Yeah, they have Wilson as well, which is a team in Division II that's making some noise, and then Marshall. But really, they shouldn't slip up against those teams. Franklin's the big game. Can they score enough points? Can the defense make stops? Because that Franklin offense is absolutely rolling right now. At number 6, Garfield, 4-0 as well, off last week against Legacy. This week, very similar situation to Eagle Rock. Just look at the schedule, and Alex, we were talking kind of off the air. Where's the loss? Because Garfield, they play at Southgate. That's going to be the tough game. But then besides that, it's really not much. I don't see them slipping up against Legacy, the East LA Classic against Roosevelt. I think they should win that game. At Southgate, that's the one tough game for them. I still like them, though, to run the table and make the open division.
Yeah, I agree. Let's take a second and actually look at that schedule that they've got. They've got Legacy this week. Then they're going to play Bell. Bell just beat Roosevelt, so maybe that's going to be kind of a stub-your-toe game there for the Bulldogs. But like we've said, I think we expect them to win. Then they get Southeast, another game I think they should win.
Yeah, Southeast is having a tough year.
Right, so as you mentioned, then it's at Southgate. That's the test. Huntington Park after that. They made some noise last year. They won the Division II city title, so hey, maybe they've got some fight left in them. And then Roosevelt, East LA Classic at the end of the year. So looking at these last 5 games, realistically they should go 5-0, but anything can happen, especially when you get into league play. Injuries happen. As we know, depth issues in the city section can certainly be kind of an end of the season issue for a lot of teams. You lose one big guy, maybe you don't have someone stepping up. So you never know, but at this point, Eagle Rock and Garfield, I think we're both picking them going undefeated.
All right, Alex, at number 5, it's San Fernando. They drop a little bit, and I know that some San Fernando folks aren't happy. They're 2-2. The reason we dropped them is because I know they played Notre Dame Sherman Oaks, who's a really good Southern Section team, but that was a 56-7 loss. We kind of gave them the all right against Alamany, first game of the year, a little rusty, some guys are hurt. But it was week 4 now, and that's just a bad look. The fact that they were beaten so badly at home is why they dropped to number 5. I know they have a couple of health concerns, but just thoughts on their ranking this week. 5, I think, makes sense for them after that game this past weekend.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of San Fernando. The couple of big games that they've had, they've just kind of stubbed their toe. I mean, these were games that they're not necessarily winnable games. You don't expect you're going to go out, beat an Alamany or beat a Notre Dame, but you expect your offense to make some noise. You expect to get some big defensive stops. 56-7, even if someone didn't see the game, it's almost like you don't have to see the game. When you see a score like that, it just kind of hurts the program all the way around. They did lose a couple of pieces. Kyle Bryant wasn't able to play this entire game, suspended after a hit against a player in the Dorsey game. Nehemiah Thompson left the game. Quarterback Andrew Frias didn't play. So this is a team with a lot of injuries and a lot of things to overcome here. As we're gonna talk about them a little bit later. We're gonna pick that Reseda game. But there are a lot of things they've got to overcome to kind of get back to that brand of San Fernando football that we expected to see, because depth right now, as we talked about all across the city, depth is an issue. Not a lot of guys on a team. I think San Fernando's under 40 right now, so it's tough. I mean, Robert Garcia is doing the best he can with what he's got, but when you don't have players and guys are getting hurt and guys are getting suspended, it's going to be really, really tough to kind of bounce back. Shake it off, man. You got plenty of league games left to play. You got a big game against Reseda this week. Just go out and win the rest of your games. That's pretty much all they can do.
If San Fernando loses to Reseda, does that win in the non-league against Canyon, is that enough to get them into the open division, or are there going to be some serious questions after if they end up dropping that game, because the Valley Mission League, besides that one game against Reseda, not very hard?
Well, if Reseda beats San Fernando and then Reseda goes and runs the table, and assuming like they win the rest of that Valley Mission League, as you mentioned, maybe that's the team that leaps in, because Canyon, they're not really having a great season right now, and the other win they've got is against Dorsey, and we've talked about how Dorsey's down a little bit. So if they lose against Reseda, yeah, that might knock them out of the open division. As much as I kind of hate to say it, they were the Division I champs last year. I know they're so hungry to get into that open division, but this is a huge, huge game with a lot of season implications on the line. So in a way, it's kind of early in the season, mid-season here, but this is a must-win.
Yeah, city section defining game for sure. That's one we'll be all over. We're going to pick that one in a little bit. So at 4, Carson. We mentioned how San Fernando got destroyed against Notre Dame Sherman Oaks. Carson did a nice job of, they lost, but they kept it close against Los Alamitos, a team that beat Long Beach Poly. So you can give them some credit for that. I think Carson's defense is pretty good. They, for the most part, besides that Cathedral game, they've kept teams from scoring too many points on them. I know they're 1-4. Which obviously you want to win more games than that, but they've had a really tough non-league slate. I think once the Marine League gets going, they'll be favorites to beat Banning and San Pedro, finish number 2 in the Marine League, and that'll be enough to get them into the open division. Young quarterback, though, Uiale. So some questions on offense, but I think the defense will have enough for them to get into the Open Division when the time comes.
Yeah, Uwe, I think, just had a tough game against Los Al. They're a really good team. That, like you mentioned, they beat Long Beach Poly. Uwe threw a couple of picks, only 9 of 20, but these are learning experiences. He's only a sophomore. They get Inglewood next. Not exactly a breath of fresh air. You don't want to diss a team quite like that, but that's a team you should beat.
That'll be a win for sure.
That'll be a win. These are some things you can certainly work on. You can try to experiment with a couple of things, and then you tune up as Marine League play gets started. We've talked about the defense out of the Colts. I mean, really one of the better defenses here in the city. All kinds of guys had double-digit tackles in that Los Al game. Ja'Cory Moe had some. Frisco Toete had a lot. So a lot of names here putting up some stats and max preps and looking pretty good. So the Colts, Open Division lock, not quite, but if they win the games they should win in the Marine League, yes, very quickly.
Ja'Cory Moe also had a rushing touchdown from 1 yard out. I would not want to be a
He's
defender
a beast,
against him from 1 yard out. He scored in that game, so glad you shouted him out. At 3, Venice, a team that I owe an apology to. Because remember last week I said, oh, Newbury Park, yikes, Venice has no chance.
You did say yikes. That was an adjective.
38-35, they lose, but I did not expect it to be that close. I know Newbury Park had their backup quarterback in, but still, that's a very talented Southern Section team. Venice was on the road, and they were in this game.
Oh.
The word from people on Twitter and just from all around is that Venice looked legit in this one, and it had a lot to do with Luca Diamant. 26 of 39 for 3 touchdowns, 271 yards, and then, ready for this? 9 carries, 229 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. He accounted for 500 yards by himself. That's a kid who has an Alabama offer and showing why.
Well, you just stole my game ball. Venice, Luca Diamant. Yeah. They had a 21-0 lead in this game. Not only were they in it, they were winning. Looked like they might actually blow out Newbury Park. This thing goes all the way down to the wire, and in the last final seconds of this game, the final minute, Luca Diamant rushes from 60 yards out to tie up this ball game. So, I mean, the kid's a beast. He's doing everything he can right now. He's 4th in the city in passing yards. He's an absolute monster. Offensively, Venice and Westchester, that game's going to be so much fun. I don't expect anybody from this point on to beat Venice. I really don't. I think they go undefeated the rest of the year.
Even Paramount?
I think they can beat Paramount based on how well that offense played against Newbury Park. Looks like they're on fire. I mean, Luca's making plays up and down the field, and then Western League play, I think they sweep through it. So big things coming from the Gondos.
Chad Johnson Jr. is playing both ways as well. I think he had 9 catches in this game against Newbury Park, and then defensively he racked up something like 10 tackles. That's just kind of welcome to the city section for you. The best athletes are going to play on both sides of the ball.
Yes, it is.
And they're going to make
Very
plays.
True.
With the exception of the quarterback. Diamant's not going to be playing defense. But Chad Johnson Jr., one of the best receivers in the section. He's playing defense as well. Look at Reseda. A lot of guys go both ways. Same at St. Fernando. If you are an athlete, bigger and you can make plays, you're going to be playing on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it's a depth thing as well. I mean, they don't exactly have rosters of 65 or 55 guys. You got 35, sometimes 40 dudes. So you got to go out there. Some of these guys playing varsity or playing for the first time. So a lot of the seniors, they're going to be playing both ways. Offensive linemen are going to line up at nose tackle. You're going to have your linebackers as your running backs. So, yeah, it's great to see some of these two-way guys, but it's also just a big issue in depth right now.
I really wish Venice still had Bryson Tremaine, who's enrolled at Stanford, playing football over there right now.
That'd be insane.
If they had him as a receiver, that offense could maybe even rival Narbonne. At number 2, we have Birmingham. They beat Agura, a game you were at, Alex, 39-13. Takeaways from that one.
Birmingham could have won this one 50-0. And I was talking to head coach Jim Rose after the game, and he was saying, yeah, I kind of thought we would. Kind of let off the gas a little bit, made a couple of mistakes. They were a better team than Agura all night long. I mean, they won 39-13, but it was not a contest after the first quarter. I mean, I think they were up 14-0 early and then got out to 26-0 before the first half ended. So this game really kind of got out of hand quickly. Mason White, I talked to him after the game. That kid was a beast. He had 3 touchdowns on the ground and then returned a fumble 65 yards for a touchdown. So this kid's just a monster. He was really kind of doing it all. The offense was kind of limiting what they wanted to call. They didn't want to get everything on film for Notre Dame, and of course they were without one of their best players back there at running back. So DJ Banks not playing. Hopefully they think he'll get in the Notre Dame game, but then again, they may just hold him out, wait for playoffs. Why get him hurt? There's no exact rush to get him in. Mason White's doing a fine job in his absence, so hopefully DJ gets back in, but in the meantime, Mason White's been really awesome. They're 3-1. They get Notre Dame next. San Fernando had a really tough time with Notre Dame. Really curious to see if Birmingham can kind of make a statement by losing in a smaller manner, losing in a more impressive manner, or just shock the whole city and win it. But I'm excited regardless.
Yeah, but take away Narbonne's win against Serra, and that would probably be the most impressive city section victory if Birmingham is able to pull off the upset. I agree with you. I think they probably will lose, and the question is, will it be closer than the San Fernando game? I certainly hope so for their sake, because who likes to get blown out? At number 1, Narbonne. huge double overtime win against Serra on the road, 27-26. That was the game of the week in Southern California. Jalen Henderson played well. I know he had 2 picks, but when crunch time came, he was big. Ricky Martin, their kicker, kicked the game-winning extra
point. A walk-off PAT.
Yeah. Steve Jenkins threw a ball, a wide receiver, to Aaron East, and Aaron East fought through a crowd to catch it for a touchdown. Narbonne pulled out some tricks in that game and got the win. They're 2-3. They're going to get their transfers back for this upcoming week against Lawndale, Jake Garcia, Josh Jackson, and Breon Penny. I think it's a good time to be a Narbonne Gaucho right now.
It sure is. I tweeted after that Serra game, I said I was waiting for that statement Narbonne win. Yes, they're without their transfers, but it's Narbonne. You're waiting for kind of that coming out moment. They go and they beat Serra in double overtime. Bang, there it is. Now they get their transfers. That's scary. I mean, the rest of the city's just as if they weren't worried about Narbonne already. It's like, okay, well, now you get all your other guys back, and now you're at full strength. That's going to be really, really tough. Marcy Sietz in that game, 139 yards on the ground and a touchdown, turning into one of the most consistent running backs here in the city against some really good competition.
He might be the best running back in the city.
I think he might be, and he's only a sophomore, so we're going to see a lot of more good years out of the kid. But 7 team sacks there for the Gauchos. Jordan Banks had a couple. Andre Jenkins had 2 more. And you've talked to Jordan Banks, and he's a beast. You really like his intensity, coming away with 2 sacks in a big game against Serra. That's huge. Craig Martin and Malik Horn had a couple of picks. Now they get Lawndale, got a great running back over there. I talked about Jordan Wilmore a ton, it seems like, but this is a really, really good team. We're going to pick that Lawndale game, so I'm not going to give away my pick yet, but really, really exciting team. Curious to see what they've got left.
One other Narbonne point, Alex. Remember way back week 0 when Narbonne went to Hawaii and they got destroyed, and Coach Douglas after the game talked about quarterback Jalen Henderson, and he said, yeah, I don't have my guy. This was a tough game for us. I liked a few things that we did, but I didn't have my quarterback. And I don't want to say threw him under the bus, but you know, he mentioned it. He brought it up himself.
Yeah.
After this Serra game, Coach Douglas said, Jake will probably play, or will definitely play, but Jalen has earned the right to play some snaps as well against Lawndale. Jalen Henderson has played so much better than he started the year. He's improved tenfold. He's going to play against Lawndale, and he's earned his snaps. Look for Narbonne to play 2 quarterbacks now, and that just really puts a smile on my face because it's a young kid, 15 years of age, who looked like he didn't really belong and is now making big plays against Serra, a Division I power in the southern section, and he's earned his stripes and he's earned his snaps, and I'm excited to see what he does alongside Jake Garcia. Good for Jalen Henderson.
Yeah, we were talking about it. You asked me, what do you think of this? And I said, well, maybe it's Coach Manny Douglas lighting a bit of a fire under Jalen Henderson to see what he's got left, to see if he can answer the bell, step back up, and kind of push through that tough week 1. And as the season progressed, he got a lot better. Like you said, he really kind of proved that there are learning mistakes early, but you can really grow and continue to get better through this game. It doesn't always have to be at practice. Some of your best learning moments come at game speed. So really good thing here for Jalen Henderson. And this kid's an athlete. He may bounce around the field. He might not just stick at quarterback, but for the time being and for the next couple of years, because this kid's only a sophomore, as you mentioned, 15 years old, they got a really good athlete and hopefully a really good quarterback for years to come.
So shout out J Money. We're watching you. We see you. Let's move on now, Alex, to our game balls, where we highlight some of the top players from the past week in the city section. I think Luca Diamant can kind of be one for both of us, but do you want to go through his stat line once again? It's so good.
Yeah, let's do it just for fun because these numbers are just, I mean, it's like football porn, man. 271 yards passing, 220 yards on the ground, a 50-yard sideline touchdown run, 5 total touchdowns, over 500 yards of total offense. They scored 35 points in this game. 7 times 5 is 35. Luca Diamant accounted for every single touchdown in this game. He accounted for pretty much almost all of their entire offense. So, I mean, the kid gets my game ball. What else can I say?
He was fantastic. He was on my list as well. I'll go to Nathaniel Adams, a guy who you brought up, Alex, over at Westchester. 223 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns in that win against View Park. The Westchester offense, led by Jillian Carter and Nathaniel Adams, what a dynamic duo they have.
Yep.
They have a shot at the Open Division, which is something that we did not expect earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about Westchester, I mentioned that offense. We've talked about their defense, but it's exciting to see some of these really good players come kind of back and push Westchester back into some of that conversation. We talked about them early last year as maybe a team to watch. Then they kind of fell off and didn't finish the season the way they wanted, but really excited for them to see them where they are. And I know I keep saying so-and-so belongs on the short list for City Player of the Year. Well, I think it's about time I announced my short list for City Player of the Year.
Let's hear it.
Let's go through it. Luca Diamant, as I mentioned, he got my game ball. Right now, he might be sitting atop my City Heisman list. The kid had an awesome game against Newbury Park. We've gushed about it, gone on and on. So, Luca, you're on my short short list. Nehemiah Thompson, the two-way player over there at San Fernando, the running back and linebacker, assuming he stays healthy. I don't know if he got hurt or what. Assuming he continues to play really good football, he's going to be right on that short list. Marcise Yates, we've talked a ton about him. Good sophomore running back there at Narbonne. And then Alfred Bobadilla at Franklin. You cannot count him out. I don't care if he's a Division II player. The kid is leading all of the city section in passing yards, 1,497 passing yards with 19 touchdowns. 5 rushing touchdowns as well to make a total of 24 touchdowns. So this kid, yeah, he plays at Franklin, doesn't play the toughest competition, but he's got to be on my short list. There are very few players that are dominating the game like he is right now. So that's my short list 1 through 4. Diamont, Thompson, Yates, and then Bobadilla 1 through 4.
Just kind of on the fly, some other names. Mario Martinez at Reseda
also
has
very
been
good.
Outstanding. I don't think he'll get that Player of the Year nod just because of those other guys, but his stat lines have been ridiculous. A guy who's talk about coming out of nowhere. Jalen Carter at Westchester, I think he is in the discussion as well. And then how about J.P. Garcia at Garfield?
Oh yeah, big time.
Every game it seems like he has 200 rushing yards. So those are kind of 3 other guys who, at the end of the year, will do our all-city team. I think
we're going to see all those guys making some list
yeah,
one way or another.
Absolutely, but those are 3 other names I mentioned. But Alex, I agree with your list 100%. I think those are probably the top 4. Let's move on now to our picks, where we pick games upcoming. So I have Lawndale, Narbonne, Birmingham, Notre Dame, Sherman Oaks, Reseda, San Fernando. Any other ones that you wanted to throw in there?
Fairfax at Marshall, Roosevelt at Southgate, and then Paramount at Venice.
All right,
some
so
really good
it seems
games.
like I have 3 and Alex has 3, so let's start with my 3. So Lawndale at Narbonne. Narbonne's getting everybody back. I have the Gauchos in this game. I think it's going to be maybe a little bit closer than people think because Jordan Wilmore is such a beast, and Lawndale has a good quarterback as well who used to be at Narbonne, so he might want to get a little bit of revenge and kind of that chip on the shoulder factor, but Narbonne is just too talented.
Yeah, let it ride with the Gauchos. We both picked Sarah last week, and it was a back-and-forth game all the way towards the wire. Narbonne proved us wrong. Let's go with the Gauchos this week. They got the transfers back. I'm a big Jordan Wilmore fan. I met him last year after the Culver City game before he had that USC offer, and I was like, this might be one of the best running backs I've ever seen. So just a part of me kind of pulls for Jordan Wilmore whenever I see him, but that doesn't mean I necessarily want him to lose. I just think team-wise, up and down, Narbonne's going to be better. Give me the Gauchos.
For Birmingham and Notre Dame, I'm setting the point spread at 21.5. Notre Dame is favored. What do you think?
I think Notre Dame covers this one. I mean, the point spread was over 40 in the game against San Fernando. I think Birmingham scores a couple of times. If DJ Banks doesn't play, they're just going to have a tough time scoring a lot of points. Notre Dame's got a really explosive offense. They've rolled over these last couple opponents they've played. So clearly they're kind of clicking on all cylinders, and I'm picking Notre Dame by 28. So give me 42 and whatever minus 28, 14.
Works for me. I have Notre Dame big as well. Reseda at San Fernando.
Oh, boy.
The game that everyone's been waiting for in the Valley Mission League all season. San Fernando's had kind of an up and down start to the year. Reseda haven't played too many good teams, but
they're hot.
They're undefeated. They have their transfers back.
Yeah, they're hot.
What the heck are you going to pick this game? How? I don't know.
I don't know. I really hesitate to pick this one because I think it could really go either way. I like both these teams. I think they're both very talented. If I have to pick right now, based on what I know, I'm not sure if San Fernando is at full strength. I really don't know if they're going to have all of their guys. If they don't have all of their guys, I would pick Reseda in this one, just because I don't think they're totally healthy. If San Fernando is healthy, I'm kind of taking the coward's way out here and picking both sides. If San Fernando's healthy, if they're healthy, they've got all their guys, I'm picking the Tigers because I think top to bottom they are better. But we don't really know if Nehemiah Thompson's going to play. We know Kyle Bryant's been nagging some injuries and then was suspended from last game. Andrew Frias hasn't played. So if their guys are out, I'm picking Reseda.
I have San Fernando 31, Reseda 30 in a City Section Classic.
Oh, boy.
There you have it. I'm not going to say why. That's just how I feel.
All right.
So your 3 games.
My 3 games, I got Paramount at Venice. I'm hoping to take that one in. Maybe we'll go somewhere else. I'm not quite sure.
So you really have Paramount.
But I'm not sure about Paramount. I just like Venice. I've talked a ton about Luca Diamant and how good that offense is. I'm really excited. Let it ride, man. Go Gondos. I think they're going to put up 45 points, and I think Paramount probably puts up 30 in a shootout.
I like Paramount. They're a top 50 team in Southern California. I think Venice can keep it close like they did with Newbury Park. I didn't expect it, but I would be shocked if Venice walked away with a win.
All right. Big time. Fairfax at Marshall. You took in a game Reseda in Marshall. I've seen Fairfax play Crenshaw. This is going to be a battle of 2 teams just kind of feeling out what the rest of their season looks like, but I'm believing in Scott Harris. Kid is going to walk on at SC. Give me the Lions.
Yeah, Fairfax should win, but every time I've picked them, they've lost. I guess technically they beat Crenshaw, but
they
was
lost.
A forfeit. They lost that game. Just because Division I against Division II, I'll pick Fairfax, but they haven't done me any favors this year. I wouldn't be shocked if Marshall beat them.
And I've also got Roosevelt at Southgate. We're talking a lot about both of these teams as sort of foils to what Garfield can do. I'm picking Southgate in this one. I think Roosevelt, with that coaching change and things just kind of shaking out a little bit differently. Southgate's played some teams kind of tough. Did get shut out against Palisades, but I got Southgate in this one.
Me too. Southgate. Those
right.
are our picks. This has been the Week 5 LA City Section Football Podcast. For Alex Garr, I am Connor Morissette. We will see you next time.